Hi, following its 14 BAFTA nominations earlier this week, I last night sat down to watch All Quiet on the Western Front, the new adaptation of Erich Maria Remarque's 1929 book novel about the experiences of German soldiers during the First World War. It's directed by Edward Berger, and the film takes a very loose attitude to the adaptation. There are a large number of characters who are missing. The specific setting has been changed to the last few days of the war before the armistice, and the focus has shifted as well from the war from the solely from the enlisted man's point of view to a subplot added for the film about the attempts to negotiate the armistice. I found the film to be an extremely well made, extremely intense demonstration of what life was like on the front line of the First World War. It is exceptionally violent, exceptionally brutal, exceptionally gory, more so than almost any other war film I can remember. And in those elements, I think it's extremely truthful. However, there wasn't really a great deal else to it. Yes, the film quite rightly shows how horrific and nightmarish the war was, how cruel and uh, vainglorious the generals were, marching their men into a meat grinder purely for their own vanity and glory seeking. But this is already well known. This is a matter of public record. You can look back at things such as Blackadder in the late 80s, or even Paths of Glory in the late 50s, even earlier adaptations of the film, when it seems strange to me that the film is presenting this knowledge that's been well known and acknowledged in public for well over a century as being some kind of revelation. The film ultimately feels like a kind of a starter's guide to World War One, the kind of thing you would show in schools, and even the postscript after the end, before the end credits rather, about the terrible carnage of the war, feels like it's aimed at someone who has never even heard of World War One. I can imagine the film working as a teaching tool very well, but really, to anyone with any knowledge about the war, this is strangely retrograde. There, it's extremely well made. The photography, design, editing, visual effects, sound design, all superb, all top notch, and all very much deserving their BAFTA recognition. But the idea that it should be nominated for Best Film, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay is really absurd. The film adds very little to the conversation. It doesn't say anything new, it doesn't present anything that's particularly original. It's just retreading well known tropes in an extremely competent and talented way. The story focuses on a group of four young cadets who join the army straight from school and are seemingly shipped straight to the front line with no training and barely any time to get on their uniforms. After a brutal first day, the film then jumps forward to the final week of the war, and we see as the time progresses towards 11 o'clock on the 11th of November 1918, how the various members of the group are picked off one by one, whilst attempts are made behind the scenes to secure an end to the war. I found the scenes involving the negotiation of the armistice to be far more interesting and engaging, and I would have appreciated a film about that far more than what we end up getting. The performances are generally strong. I struggle to name any, though. Albrecht Schuch has been BAFTA nominated for his role as an old soldier in his 30s who takes the group under his wing, and Daniel Brühl as a reasonably compassionate politician who just wants the slaughter to end, makes an impression in his few scenes. But overall, it's not a film I can easily recommend. It's severe and brutal and nightmarish, as I said, and as indeed it should be. But if you know anything about the First World War, or you've seen any films or experienced any fiction about the First World War, it's not going to tell you anything that you don't already know or couldn't have worked out for yourself. It's a teaching aid more than anything else. The idea that this is one of the best films of the year is baffling. And it's ironic, I suppose, that the original title in German is Im Westen Nichts Neues, in the West, nothing new. And this really is nothing new.